What is one thing you hope your parents never find out about you? Possible NSW. My opinions of them as people. Don't get me wrong, they are good parents, but I hate the way they treat other members of the public. My mom does this. I work in customer service and I'm always trying to treat people with respect when I go out and interact. When I'm out with my mother, she verbally steps on people and it's embarrassing. She doesn't realize how much of a fool she looks like when she does that, and how much I hate going out in public with her. I never want my mother to know just how depressed I was in high school. I was bullied from grade 2 to grade 12 and had severe depression due to it. One time, I climbed over the railing of our apartment balcony and prepared my last goodbyes in my head. As I got to my mother, the only thing I could think of was her face at my funeral. My mother did everything she could for me. She was the only person I could count on. We grew up very poor, routinely went to the food bank instead of the grocery store. She gave up meals so I could go on $7 field trips, that sort of thing. Thinking about the sacrifices my mother made for me, I broke down in tears and climbed back to the safe side. I never told her about my almost suicide attempt, and although she knows I had it rough at school, she still does not know how clinically depressed I was. It would break her heart to know how sad I was, and after all she has done for me, I could never do that to her. Just give her a call and tell her how much you appreciate her. You don't have to tell her about your past, but you can always focus on the present and the future. I'm glad you climbed back to the safe side. That I wrote a $7,000 check for my brother to move away from home to Denver, against my parents' wishes. He never went to college and I could see he would live here forever had he not seen outside of suburban northern Illinois. That my little brother's babysitter used to make me grope her, but I didn't tell anyone because I liked doing it despite knowing it was kind of wrong. That I paid for my entire college tuition by selling pot and steroids. They think I had a full-time job at Costco throughout school and are so proud of me for doing both. I quit Costco after 3 weeks. Cream. The entrepreneurial spirit. I slept with my wife's sister before I slept with her. Thought I would add the story behind it. 9 years ago during university, I was set up on a blind date by a friend of mine with this girl who was 2 years younger than I was, but he said we had things in common. We didn't. But anyway, one thing led to another and before you knew it I was back at hers doing the no pants dance. As we were leaving her house the next morning, I had the world's most awkward introduction to this girl's family who were all sitting at the table having their breakfast. I'm talking like middle school class presentation but you have an erection type awkward. But lo and behold there was the most beautiful lady I had ever seen sitting at one end of the table smiling at me. She asked us who I was and what we were doing. So I introduced myself and in a fluster the sister and I both managed to stutter out that I was her tutor and was helping her prepare for her exams last night and just crashed the night here. Fast forward 2 weeks, I ran into the elder sister, my wife, girl at the breakfast table, in one of my courses at university. She approached me and said, "Oh hey, you're my sister's tutor aren't you?" In a fluster I managed to nervously scream out yes I was. Keep in mind, I thought she was one of the most attractive women I'd ever seen so I was silently kicking myself for looking Rain Man retarded in front of her. But, she laughed it off and said she should help her study over a drink. The rest is history. She has asked before if her sister and I had done anything, but again I maintained that it was a student-tutor relationship and nothing more. Was nothing malicious. It will never be and I love my wife and the sister is smart enough to realize this and not bring up past demons. As to my parents, if they found out my mother would kill me for lying all these years and the general morality of the situation and my father would make some smart butt joke like keeping it in the family I saw sauce. Or was it try one get one free week? TLDR. Blind date with sister ended up with awkward introduction to future wife. That is some sauces. My dad will never know he forever ruined the act of cunnilingus for me. I found naked photos of my pops going down on his girlfriend. The pictures were taken from her point of view so all I really saw was legs over his shoulders chin deep in a bag. His eyes staring into my soul. I was looking through old family photos. Why? Why were they in there? All I can think about is him popping up and saying, "I'm doing this for you son," then returning the task at hand. That I don't miss them nearly as much as they miss me. Don't mind how you feel about your parents. Instead think of how they are feeling, since they are missing you. If you possess the ability to empathize, then you'll feel bad automatically. If you don't, then you're a bad person. That really hit home for me and was something I genuinely never put much thought into. My parents might know that they miss me more than I miss them, and probably do, as a few other redditors mentioned, but now that I am aware of that fact makes me want to put in the effort to keep in contact. Not because I necessarily feel bad, but because I need to cherish whatever contact I can make with them. They won't be around forever. I know that feel, or lack of feel, I guess. That I blame my mum for the bulk of my mental health issues. I love her, but in the back of my mind I think I'll always feel bitter about the way she treated me when I needed her most. How much it had fricked me and my little brother up that my father has a tattoo of the names of my 4 other siblings, but not us. Yes, it was done before we were born, but me and him had given my dad a $300 certificate to a tattoo shop to get it redone, and 8 years later he hasn't done it. Don't care if this is not the right thread for it, but I'm glad I got that off my chest. Tell your dad you want your $300 back. That I'm an escort. Honestly speaking, it's not so much an if as it is a when. When they eventually find out I'm going to have to arrange a double funeral, they'll keel over and die of the shock, I'm sure. It's not that bad. The Ford Escort is a great car, especially the Cosworth. That I don't plan on having children. Poor Ma brings up how much she wants to be a grandma soon and how I'd be a great father. I'm 26 and hardly make enough money to support myself at every family gathering. Dude, I'm in the same boat. I have an awesome nephew who I love being around, but I don't want my own. They don't know my girlfriend was born a boy and transitioned at 16 before emigrating to US. In fact, nobody knows except her family and friends on the East Coast. Personally, I don't care, but it would give my parents grief to know we can't have kids. The real reason for all my health problems is that I'm an alcoholic, chain smoker and anorexic all in one. From one to another, those who truly love you already know and would feel privileged if you'd let them in and, if you choose, help you with recovery. 3. All the best, no matter what you choose. That I didn't lose my virginity to my ex-husband, or the number of men I've been with. They are really big on that stuff. Don't ask me why. Mom was a S and dad has been married 3 times. I'd never hear the end of it. That's why they are big on that stuff. I don't want them to know that I don't really have any IRL friends. That I've never had any close friends I could confide in. I've always held my problems. Not that I really had any. Middle class white girl close to my chest. Kept to myself. Spent more time on the internet than is probably healthy, and just generally never been a social person. I wouldn't say I'm an extreme introvert, as I can function socially when needed, but I've never really been close to anyone I've met other than my so, and I even met him online. I don't want them to know because I think they'd feel as if they failed in some way, as though they didn't socialize me well enough or something. It's not that, it's just that my sister is extremely outgoing and popular and I feel as though I'm constantly being compared to her. I eventually just kinda gave up. That when I lost my virginity at 14 to my best friend, it wasn't consensual. They found out from my small town PD about their underage daughter sneaking out to frick older boys because he took my torn, bloody panties and threw them at his brother, who told their parents. They grounded me for 2 years, which led to me drinking like crazy because I had to deal with them calling me a W. Also that I absolutely loathe them. My dad is a good man, but my mom is a horrible person. I'm moving out of the country, quite literally, in 2014, and I'm absolutely thrilled that my soon-to-be in-laws are so awesome. My mother hates my guy, but he saved my life when all she did was shatter me over and over. Oh, and I called my mom when I was physically shamed in college and decided to report it. She was silent when we went to the police station. Same with when we went to the for the exam. She left before I even got called back into the examination room. The next time I went home, she was watching an episode of Law and Order SVU where the guy got off after physically shaming a college student because it was a he said she said case. I told her I was uncomfortable. She told me to leave the room then. Since then, she's acted like nothing happened. I hate her. I want to cause chest trauma to this bee. That when I was younger I stole money from my mom's wallet to buy marijuana. Still feel bad about that. She's the greatest mom I've ever had. Okay WTF people, I answered the multiple moms thing to the first person who inquired. I was arrested twice for alcohol related misdemeanors while a freshman in college. I took care of them myself with PTI and money I had saved up from working in high school and college. Nothing too wild here. I just wouldn't like my mom finding out because she is a controlling and traditional Asian parent. Since my parents are firm believers mind warped by the media, I wouldn't want them to know that I've done the herb. Nah mean nephew? I think the media is going pretty well for the herb at the moment. That I'm pretty much the reason my parents got divorced. Let me explain. When I was younger, I did not have a debit card and asked my mom to pay for a membership to a dating site. A gay one at that. She obliged because she wanted to see me happy like all mothers do. My dad wasn't happy in the marriage for various reasons, and was later diagnosed with clinical depression and received treatment for such. Well, he found the charge for the website and assumed that she was cheating on him. He even told me that he was going to divorce mom and why. At the time, it didn't occur to me that it was related to the website she paid for me. I did not tell her that dad was going to divorce her or that it was, in part, because of said dating site. I also didn't tell my dad before he passed away. Motorcycle accident. I don't think she knows why dad thought she was cheating on him, but I don't want her to know that I could have potentially staved off the divorce. Kinda makes me feel like crap. My parents got divorced when I was 20, but mom paid for the site when I was 19. Wasn't you? I would bet. That was just part of a lot of other crap you likely didn't see. I've been in a close situation with my spouse, and our kid thought it had to do with him asking for a specific toy. Kids don't tend to see the whole picture, so you shouldn't really be too hard on yourself. Crossdresser. I don't remember how it all started. I was very young and I have one vivid memory of me in elementary school looking at a woman on the cover of some glamour magazine and wishing I could be that beautiful. In fact, I prayed that night that I would wake the next day with that as my future. Sometime in middle school, a comment on the bus, the school system's brilliant idea think tank, triggered something in my mind. The next thing I knew, I was sneaking clothes out of my mother's dresser. There were nights where I would wake up in the middle of the night, or I just stayed up past my family and I'd go to my clothes hiding place and put on a bra under my sleep shirt. I'd put rolled up clothes in the bra and then walk in front of the mirror and just be happy with the little bit of joy that fantasy brought me. When I got a GF in high school, I think I maybe left that behind me. I didn't have the desire to do it, or not nearly strongly enough to do it, so I thought it was behind me. College and post-college, stories for another time, perhaps. That I was physically shamed by a priest and have no emotional attachments to either of them. I'm Irish male in my early 20s. Physically shamed sometime between 4-5. My parents were super Catholic. Having depression and suicidal thoughts from 17 years old was not fun, but I had great siblings who would calm me down while I threw tantrums after nightmares and talk to me after I lie in bed for hours. I never told any of my family back then, mainly because by the time I figured out how wrong what was done to me was, the reports began coming out, which were these huge documents pointing at the systematic abuse of Catholic clergy for decades, mainly in relation to boarding schools. When I saw this on the news, I felt I finally had a way of expressing what had happened to me, and I wasn't alone. The conversation went like this. Me. Wow, what do you think of all those cases and what should the priests be punished with, mum? Mum bar pay no attention to that, it's a load of rubbish. Most of the victims lied to get money and to make the church look bad. And just like that, I was crushed. The only time I verbally was able to express what had happened to me was after inevitably I started smoking herb and all that jazz. As a teen, I got caught for the millionth time with smoke on me. You're a horrible son, frick you mom. Teenage bulls, where I'm breaking down and my mum says all my problems are because I smoke herb. At this stage, my mum, dad, one bro and sis are shouting how I am dope scum and have no respect. It escalates till I'm in my room in bits with my back to the door until one of my brothers, the only sibling with time for me at the time, comes out of his room, probably sick of hearing the shouting, tells my family to back the frick off and grabs car keys and yells at me to hop in for a drive. He tells me just a breath and eventually we're at the coast. He basically comes straight out and says you were hurt real bad when you were a kid. I am in bits. He calls out the different things you can get messed up from and eventually has it. We stayed a few hours and eventually had to go back. Since then I've been unsuccessfully trying to get the heck away from my parents, but now things are even more complicated as I have a kid and can only mind the kid in parents' house as separated from the mother. I try to stay positive, but it's really hard trying to fight all that childhood skeleton closed crap and progress to the point I can have my own damn life, and I still can't tell my parents because it would literally kill my dad with the amount of meds he's on and break my mum's entire spirit, or they won't believe me and say I'm attention seeking and only saying it cause I'm not Catholic and want an excuse to be a prick. TDLR therapeutic rambling I needed to get off my chest. That I worry about my mom every day. She is getting older, and the idea of her passing scares the crap out of me. I love her so much. I am going to call her right now. I could have prevented a very messy divorce by closing just one chat window. To clarify, my mum was cheating on my dad with a guy in America. My dad was already trash, and she was planning to divorce him, but she left the chat window open. I saw it. I was 12. I was mad at my mum for cheating on him, and I was too unsound in the head to think about the consequences of leaving it open. So I left it open. My dad read it. Things got messy. His drinking got worse, and my mum left for America for a year to be with him. She came back for me eventually, and took me to the US. Under that guy she was cheating with, someone I had a very negative opinion of and still hold a grudge against, but nowhere near what I have now. I became a better person. He was a good man. My dad was trash, and he was the man who should have been my dad in the first place. I was in that country for 7 years and I was a piece of crap because of my own bitterness and resentment. Him and my dad died about a year ago. That was when I decided that I need to man up. I manned up, got a job, wrung good cash out of my dad's pension and estate, and resolved to be a better person. No more beating around the bush. No more being bitter and resentful. Decided to take life as it is, tell it like it is, and look after my mum even though I'm still mad at her for stomping on a third of my life. Please, explain. I dropped out of college in my last semester. I still walked at graduation because you register for that well in advance. My father cried. I've never seen him cry, because my parents were able to put all of their 4 children through college and I was the last. However, I did go back a year later to finish. That me and my twin brother swapped identities after 6 months traveling around India 15 years ago. We were 18. I was always a freak up and he felt the stress of living up to their expectations. It's kinda balanced out now. No way. I'm a twin and my mom would be able to tell immediately. I run a sports book to help pay my bills. Now that I think about it, I'm not sure if I don't want them to know or not. I just can't bring myself to tell them. I don't want them to worry, so I am telling the 2 random strangers on the internet that might actually read this. There are many things I hope they never find out, but I guess near the top of the list would be that the last time I went to church with them I got high and had premarital fricking with my Jewish girlfriend in the parking lot. My parents know I snuck out of my house when I was 13, but what they don't know and don't need to know is that I was in a high-speed chase with the cops that night. My religious beliefs, or lack thereof, and my orientation will be as secret to them as possible until I'm completely independent from them. The part about my orientation is more about not being disinherited by my rather bigoted grandmother. I'm bi and I'm pretty sure about 75% of my family would still think that means I'm gay, as they wouldn't know the difference. It's all good though, guys. Same here. Once I don't depend on them for college money, I plan on telling them I am gay. Not before. Gonna be a long 3 more years. That I am bi. My dad would surely disown me, but don't care now I suppose. Got a loving husband who doesn't mind that. When I was 14, my mother used to lie around the house drunk all the time. One night my hormones got the best of me and I fingered her, ate her out, and put my dong in her hands. Oh the shame. Whoa, this will eventually slither upward. No one knows I went to Iraq. I kept it from them. It was a time where my brothers were ultra conservative, didn't like the military, and my mother hated me for telling her to frick off in the car. We had a big fight. Dad only knew I joined and swore to not tell anyone. To this day, my brothers have no idea what I saw. I'm pretty honest with my dad. Once my mom died we realized there wasn't a point in keeping crap to ourselves, so we talk pretty openly. That being said, I was never going to tell him I got my ex pregnant. She had a miscarriage. Then we got drunk together. Oops, guess it's for the best. Dear son who is on Reddit, you probably think there are things that you keep secret from me that will kill me or break my heart. Truth is, it's the not calling me that breaks my heart. That's the only thing. I could handle drinking, drugs, getting girls knocked up, getting arrested etc. I wouldn't like it, but I'd deal. It's the fact that you only contact me when you want money, and even then it's through text. That part is kinda crushing my heart these days. I still love you and I always will, Mom. My parents love my husband. They think I met him on Match.com, which is what we tell people, if it comes up at all. He and I actually connected on a fetish related personal site and were fricking approximately 10 minutes after we met in person. That my dong is small and shameful, and will never measure up to the legacy of the long and mighty dong of my father before me. That I deal with depression daily, that I plan to die by my 40s. How cruel I am. How little I care for them. I'm rarely honest with them. I wanted it to be clear that I have a lot of control over my depression and that I didn't plan to kill myself, at least, not through suicide. Also, I don't hate my parents. I just have the same level of care as I have for strangers on the street. I'd put money on the fact that the only person who really believes you're cruel is yourself. Depression is a horrible illness, but you really shouldn't be planning to die when there's so much in this world to live for. Sorry if this sounds patronizing. I've battled depression on and off for years. I know how hard it can be. If you ever want to vent about anything, drop me a PM. That I got tattooed the day I turned 18. I'm back on good terms with my parents again. Definitely wasn't always the case, especially back then, and can talk to them about everything. Yet my dad has an ultra conservative point of view on tats for whatever reason. You can do anything you want with your life, and if you try hard enough you can achieve anything you dream for. And I'll accept whatever dream you might have. I'm fine with it. But if you get tattooed or pierced, I'll dispossess your blemished butt. Quote by my old man. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.